Well, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre did not speak publicly on this today, but he did post his response online, calling out both the Prime Minister and Marilyn Gladu, saying Mark Carney is seizing a costly Liberal majority that voters denied him and doing so through backroom deals. In January, MP Gladu said that floor crossers should face voters in a by-election to give voters the final say. He said, could not agree more. She should do so. The people in her community voted for our Conservative vision of a Canada that is affordable, safe and strong at home, not for the costly Liberal government she has now joined. To get a Liberal response on this, I am joined by the Liberal Party caucus chair, James Maloney. Thank you for making the time today.
My pleasure, Catherine. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Listen, let's start a little bit with the how here. People are always interested in the question of how this came about. What can you tell us about the process of bringing Ms. Gladu over to the Red Team?
What I can tell you is that I'm very pleased that Marilyn has decided to join us and join our caucus. She made a very difficult decision, a very personal decision in terms of how this came about. I spoke with Marilyn this afternoon, and I simply welcomed her to the team, offered her any support she would need, onboarding. How it happened? I think what happened, and I don't know this because I wasn't part of the process, I think that Marilyn looked at the Prime Minister, looked at the circumstances that the country is facing right now and the challenges we're having to deal with, and as Rosie just said, she saw serious leadership and she decided to make the move and join the governing Liberal Party.
We heard Artificial Intelligence Minister Evan Solomon saying he had been talking to her for some time. Do you know who else was involved in the effort to bring her over?
I honestly don't. I wasn't involved in the process, but I'm happy to have her on board. So those who talked to her obviously had some very fruitful conversations and some difficult conversations too, because, these decisions are not easy to make. For Marilyn to make this decision after 10 years being a Conservative member of Parliament, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, this is something she obviously gave long, thoughtful deliberation to.
Well, and on that note, this is someone who just weeks ago backed a petition when she was a Conservative saying floor crossers should have to submit to immediate by-elections. She told her local newspaper, The Independent, quote, "If they're voting you in under one platform, for you to switch for whatever reasons just seems to me to not be representing what you're supposed to be there to represent." That article is dated January 11th, less than 3 months ago. Should she go to a by-election, do you think?
Look, she's free to make the choice that she did. She made that choice. Our system provides for this. We've seen in the past, in my first term after 2015, Leona Alice-Lev crossed the floor to the Conservatives, and you didn't hear these type of accusations and complaints and things that you're hearing now. And it's the same thing we heard when the previous members crossed the floor. So none of this rhetoric we're hearing from the other side comes as any surprise to me.
Well, in this case, it's not so much rhetoric from the other side. It's a quote from her saying that by-election should be the case and that this hurts public trust, basically. So I wonder if you can see how that...
Fair enough.
Yeah. So what would you say to voters about that?
Find me a member of their caucus right now who has said anything different than what their leader says. She was a member of their caucus at that time, so it doesn't surprise me. Look, Marilyn, I'm sure she'll be happy to chat with you in the days to come, and you can ask her these questions. But I don't think you'd read anything into that at all.
It's not just her views on floor crossings. I'm curious, you talk about, we've heard a lot about the size of the Liberal tent today as she is brought in. She previously had to apologize for comments she made during the pandemic where she compared COVID to polio. She supported the Freedom Convoy. She criticized the Liberals' use of the Emergency Act. Doesn't that put her a bit out of step with the rest of your caucus, James Maloney?
Look, we have a big caucus, got bigger today by one, and we have lots of different views on lots of different subjects. So, and that's what makes our caucus function so well, quite frankly. You have different views. I mean, my opinions aren't held by every one of my colleagues in the Liberal caucus, and I don't share all of their opinions either. So we welcome different perspectives and we welcome different views. But at the end of the day, we emerge with a consensus, and that consensus is what forms our policy and what drives this government. And Marilyn understands that. She's had conversations with the Prime Minister leading up to the announcement today, and I don't foresee any problem going forward with her not only supporting but wholeheartedly endorsing what the government's doing. This is a decision she made. She obviously thought about these things before the announcement was made today.
I guess there's a question, though, too, about where the Liberals stand. She had previously voted to ban sex-selective abortions. Now, under Justin Trudeau, all new Liberal MPs had to vote to support abortion access. Has that policy changed under Mark Carney?
This party has stood by this. The Liberal Party is the party of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That hasn't changed. It will never change.
But I'm trying to ask new MPs.
I know. I understand. And Marilyn Gladu is now a member of this caucus, and she will support that view and continue to support that view. So I don't have any concerns in that respect either.
Okay, I do want to be crystal clear here, because this is an emotionally charged subject. You're saying that if anything that comes to abortion, Marilyn Gladu and anyone else who would join the Liberal ranks has to be supportive of abortion access, maintaining or expanding it.
Well, I'll say it again. The Liberal Party is the party of the Charter. When it comes to a woman's right to choose, time and time again, it's no secret where our party stands. It's no secret where I stand. So I don't think there's any misunderstanding here whatsoever.
Well, I'm really not trying to belabor this. I really am trying to. I hear your point. You're about the Charter, but I'm saying the rules for MPs are then that they have to support this.
I am a member of the Liberal Party. She is a member of the Liberal Party. We are a party of the Charter. We support a woman's right to choose. I don't know how much more clear I can be than that.
Okay. Your party also brought NDP MP Laurie Idlout on board. You know that Dolly Begum, former NDP MPP, provincially in Ontario, running for you right now in Scarborough Southwest. There are Liberals out there today on social media who are questioning just how big the tent is getting. If at some point the Liberal Party's values get a little bit diluted, what would you say to folks about that?
I don't know who said what, but as the caucus chair and as a member of this caucus for 10 plus years now, the bigger the tent, the better. The more ideas we have to exchange, the better outcomes you have. So whether it's Marilyn or other recent additions to the caucus, or what I hope to be new additions to the caucus on Monday, and we'll find out Monday evening, I think that's all a very positive thing.
What about before Monday? James Maloney, you think there's any chance we're going to see any more floor crossers before this by-election?
Hey, you can always hope, right?
That's your
every day brings new surprises, right? So
I do want to say, just in closing, Rosie was talking about the numbers a minute ago. Obviously, a majority government seems to be within the Liberal grasp, particularly given the fact that these two Toronto area ridings are Liberal strongholds. So what would you say to folks about what you think is going to be different on the other side of when you're looking at a majority government?
It's a perfectly fair question. It's reasonable for people to ask that. But I think if you've been watching the Prime Minister and watching the way he's been governing, he's driven by results. I don't think the approach he's going to take is going to be any different on Tuesday than it was last Tuesday. He's doing what's in the best interest of this country. That's what, when he ran to be Prime Minister, that's what was his very clear outline of his agenda, and he's following through on that. So I don't expect Tuesday to change. The numbers will change. Look, we'll see how Monday goes. If we get that majority, some of the processes will change, but I don't think the approach to governing will change.
Well, I mean, one of your colleagues, Minister Gregory Robertson, was in Terrebonne campaigning for the by-election. He spoke to one of our colleagues, Emma Godmere, and he made the comparison to how blocked up the system is in the United States and said, we need a functioning parliament here in Ottawa. Do you agree with that assessment, that you need this to get more done, or you seem to be saying business as usual?
Well, no, I'm talking about the agenda. I'm talking about the Prime Minister's approach. Mm-hmm. He's not sidestepping issues because of the number of seats we have. He's moving forward with his agenda. But Minister Robertson's absolutely right. I mean, all you need to do is look at our committee structure and the functioning of those committees. Without a majority on those committees, there's obstruction after obstruction after obstruction. I've spent more time listening to filibusters than I have to reasonable debate in the last few months. That will be curtailed if there's a majority government, and that will result in more efficient, streamlined approach to governing and better policy outcomes and better legislative results and faster results.
I just want to, in closing though, you call it obstruction. The opposition says, listen, loyal opposition, backroom deals, this isn't what Canadians vote for. We know we're going to potentially hear a lot of that in the next few days. So what is your response to Pierre Poilievre and the other members of the Conservative caucus?
Look, loyal opposition to meaning putting forward an alternative approach, suggesting, a different way of governing, perhaps, some amendments to legislation. I've been listening to hours and hours and hours and hours of debate, people saying the same thing over and over again. And some of it, it's not constructive opposition. It's not opposition at all. It's obstruction. And you only need to watch it for a couple hours to see what I'm talking about. So, look, ask Marilyn, ask anybody on the opposition benches. I will sit down, and I do sit down regularly with colleagues from all parties, and I'll have a conversation about anything, anytime. That's constructive opposition. What we're talking about is useless obstruction, and that's what we've been seeing, and that's going to come to an end because Canadians don't have time for that, especially with what we're facing, the challenges we're facing right now.
Okay, we are going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time today. James Maloney, Liberal Caucus Chair. Appreciate it.